Ever wondered what makes a website feel, well, alive? When you click a button and something actually happens, or you see a cool animation, or you get a real-time update. Yeah, that's JavaScript in action. And in this explainer, we're going to break down the language that truly powers the interactive web. Okay, let's start with a number that's just staggering. Get this, 95%. Over 95% of all websites on the entire internet use JavaScript. This isn't just some random programming language. It's a fundamental part of how the web works. All right, so what is this thing, really? Here's the textbook definition for you. JavaScript is a high-level programming language that makes websites interactive. But I like to think of it like this. If HTML is the skeleton of a web page and CSS is the skin and clothes, then JavaScript, well, JavaScript is the brain and nervous system that brings it all to life. And believe me, it doesn't just stop with websites, not even close. JavaScript has grown into this incredible do-it-all language. We use it to build the interfaces you see every day. It runs the servers behind the scenes with things like Node.js. You can even build mobile apps, desktop apps. Heck, it's even used in game development and AI now. It's everywhere. So we know it's this powerhouse language, we know it's all over the place, but how does the magic actually happen? Let's dive into our first section, the web's powerhouse, where we're going to answer that exact question. How does JavaScript actually run? You'd think it's super complicated, right? But it's actually pretty simple. It all starts with a developer writing some code. Then, when you go to a website, your browser just downloads that code along with everything else. And here's the key part. Your browser has a built-in program called a JavaScript engine that immediately reads that code and makes it run, bringing the page to life. And every major browser you use? Yep, it's got its own special engine, a little powerhouse built right in. If you're on Google Chrome, you're using the famous V8 engine. Firefox has one called SpiderMonkey. Safari uses JavaScript Core. Their one and only job is to run JavaScript code as fast and efficiently as possible.
Okay, so that's how it runs. Now let's get into the fun stuff, how we actually write it. This brings us to our next section and the absolute first building block you need to know, storing your data using something called variables. See, before you can do anything in a program, you need a way to hold on to your information.
The easiest way to think about this is to imagine you've got a bunch of labeled boxes. That's all a variable is. It's a container. You give the box a name, like username, and then you can put a piece of information inside it. Later on, you just use the name on the box to see what's inside, or even swap it out for something else. Now, when we're making these boxes in modern JavaScript, we have a couple of options. We can use the keywords let or var to create a box whose contents can change. But if you have a piece of information that should never change, like a birthday or a fixed setting, you use const, which is short for constant. It's like sealing the box shut, which is a great safety feature to stop you from accidentally changing things you shouldn't. So, what kind of stuff can we actually put inside these boxes? Well, pretty much anything you can think of. You can store plain text, which we call a string. You can store any kind of number, whole numbers or decimals. You can store a simple Boolean, which is just a fancy way of saying true or false. You can even store a whole list of items in an array, or a more complex object with different pieces of info all grouped together. So we've got our data neatly stored in our variable boxes. Now what? We need to actually do stuff with it, right? That brings us to our second building block, making things happen with operators. If variables are the nouns of JavaScript, operators are the verbs. They're the action words. An operator is just a symbol that performs an operation. And honestly, it's a concept you already know, you just might not use the word operator. Think about simple math, 10 plus 5. The plus sign, that's the operator. It's the symbol telling the computer to perform addition on the numbers 10 and 5. And of course, JavaScript has all the math operators you'd expect. Addition, subtraction, multiplication. But it also has this really handy one called the modulus operator. All it does is give you the remainder after a division. Sounds a little weird, but it's super useful for things like checking if a number is even or odd. For instance, 10 modulus 3 gives you 1, because 3 goes into 10 3 times with a remainder of 1. Okay, now listen up, because this is a big one. This is a classic gotcha for anyone starting out with JavaScript. There are two ways to see if things are equal. The double equals is, well, it's a little too helpful. It only checks if the values are the same, so it actually thinks the number 5 is equal to the text 5. The triple equals is much stricter and smarter. It checks for both equal value and the same data type. So it correctly says, nope, the number 5 is not the same as the text 5. My advice, just always use triple equals. It'll save you from so many headaches later on.
All right, we've got our boxes for data, variables, and we've got our action words, operators. You know what that means? It's time for the payoff. In our final section, we're going to write your first program by putting it all together. First things first, we need a box. We use the let keyword to declare a variable. We'll give our box the label myName. Then we use the assignment operator, that's the single equal sign, to put a value inside it. In this case, the text Akash. And that's it. We start our data.
But okay, we put something in the box. How do we peek inside and check that it's actually there? For that, we use a developer's best friend, the command console.log. This is just a simple instruction that tells the browser, hey, print this out for me in the developer console so I can see what's going on.
So when we write console.log myName, we aren't telling it to print the letters MYName. We're telling it to go find the box labeled myName, look at what's inside, and print that to the console. So naturally, the output we see is the text Akash. And boom, you've just walked through a complete working JavaScript program. Let's do a quick flyby of the key takeaways. Number 1, JavaScript is what makes web pages interactive. Number 2, variables are just like labeled boxes for storing your data. 3, operators like the plus sign or minus sign are the action words that do stuff with that data. And finally, please remember to use the triple equals for comparisons to avoid some really weird bugs. You've just grasped the core concepts, the absolute fundamental building blocks that make up nearly every interactive website and web app on the entire planet. From here, the possibilities are, well, they're pretty much endless. So really, the only question left is, what are you going to build first?